What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Bamainsider YouTube channel. He's Andrew Bone. I'm Mick Gillispie. It is great to have you guys here. It's time for recruiting with Andrew Bone. But let me remind you, before we talk Alabama recruiting, 2 weeks from signing day, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up and be part of what we're doing here on the YouTube channel. And Bone's got some great information for you at Bamainsider.com. $1 gets you 4 months, or $10 for an entire year right now that we're part of On 3. But Bone, I feel the urgency, man. 2 weeks away. I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's kind of shocking. I think the next 2 weeks are going to probably feel like 2 years to some people, because this is kind of when we make our money, when we are tracking down so much information. There's so many different rumors that are out there. Whether it's the transfer portal or different recruits taking visits, the in homes, coaches coming in left and right, all throughout the next couple weeks. I mean, we know that Nick Saban and the coaching staff's kind of all over the place. Trying to close the deal on a lot of these, top end guys that are still out there, that are still available, but also guys who are committed elsewhere. They're trying to flip those targets. They're also trying to hold on to some guys who are currently committed. So I know we're going to talk about all those subjects this evening, but it's going to be a fun ride. I'm really intrigued to kind of find out how it all ends for Alabama, just because there's a lot of unknowns. There's so many recruits who are out there that it's a really tight battle. I mean, you think about, Quay Rousseau and James Smith at Carver High School in Montgomery. It's a really close battle with those guys. Centurion Perkins, who's committed to Ole Miss, does he potentially flip to Alabama? You've got so many questions still in the defense, on the defense side of the ball, especially at cornerback. How does Alabama potentially add one more cornerback to this class with all the guys that are still out there, and even some guys that they're trying to flip? So it's going to be a circus for the next 2 weeks, and we are really looking forward to it. But as most people know, everyone who follows Bamainsider.com, we'll have complete coverage on everything every single day, because there's a different rumor it's almost every single hour on Bama Insider right now that we're trying to answer, trying to confirm and make sure that there's no legs to it, but we're staying on top of it every single day.
Yeah, talk about the board. I mean, you got a big board on there right now that is going to be updated. That's basically, you're laying out exactly what you think, and people can check it out at Bamainsider.com.
That's right. Well, I dropped my big board today. It's a complete update of every single target who's still out there. Didn't list any of the Alabama commitments who are rock solid with their decisions. There's just no point when those guys are pretty solid. We did talk about every remaining target on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. Visits that they still have remaining, coaches who have gone in to see them this week, or maybe they have visits scheduled for later on this week, and just kind of an update of where things stand. Is Alabama in the driver's seat? Do they have some ground to make up? Because we do know that there are some top end guys that are going to be visiting Alabama this weekend, including the Carver duo. You got Desmond Ricks, 5-star cornerback out of IMG Academy; Arian Carter, 4-star linebacker out of Smyrna High School in Tennessee. All these guys are heading to Tuscaloosa this weekend, so we're all kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with them in the end. Keon Keeley, will he make a decision before signing day? Will he stretch it out until then? Everybody wants to know what's going on with him, but everybody also wants to know what's going on with Caleb Downs and Justice Haynes and Tony Mitchell, 3 guys who are committed to Alabama right now, but are still being heavily pursued by other programs. There's some other guys who are currently committed to Alabama who are still receiving interest from other schools, but they're just not interested. They're not talking to anybody. They're pretty locked in with Alabama. We're really just kind of focused in on the guys who are taking other visits or talking to other colleges right now, or letting schools come in and do these in-home visits, do these last-second pitches before they sign their letter of intent. So, the biggest question mark is, will any of these guys end up flipping, between now and the early signing period? And, my short answer right now is no. I don't think any of those guys are going to flip, but there's a lot that's going to be going on over the course of the next, 2 weeks. The recruiting dead period ends next weekend, but that doesn't mean coaches just automatically stop calling kids or talking to kids on the phone. Those conversations are going to be had all the way up until a player signs their letter of intent on December the 21st, or in some cases, December the 22nd. So it's going to be a pretty wild ride up until the finish line.
Let's talk about positions of need for Alabama, kind of where we're at right now moving forward.
Yeah, I think, as of right now, I think the biggest position still to fill is at linebacker. I mean, just because there's so many linebacker targets that are out there. Alabama has 2 linebacker commitments right now. Jan Zapier out of Eufaula, outside linebacker. You also have Justin Jefferson, inside linebacker, top JUCO linebacker in the country, number 2 JUCO player overall. Both of those guys are solid commitments. But how will the rest of this linebacker class kind of fill out? You've got Keon Keeley still out there, which I think Alabama's in a very strong position with him. You've got Quay Rousseau, the 5-star out of Montgomery, Centurion Perkins, who Alabama's still trying to flip. You have Arian Carter, 4-star out of Smyrna, who I just mentioned. He's going to be visiting Alabama this weekend. I mean, you look at that group and you're thinking, man, Alabama can really do some damage there and really, sign some great players, whether they're inside or outside linebackers or these edge rusher type guys. Alabama's got a chance to really close strong there. Defensive back wise, still think cornerback's a priority position for Alabama. Jahill Hurley's probably the only corner in this class. You have some other safeties with Tony Mitchell, Caleb Downs, and Bray Hubbard, but and Jahill's kind of an in between. He can play corner, he can play safety, he can potentially play the nickel. So just not 100% sure if he's going to be a true cornerback at Alabama. He might be. I think he showed a lot of promise this season. Had a great year. He's definitely going to start out at corner, but you just never know. Especially with his size, you don't know if he's potentially going to move over to the to safety or the nickel position. So we'll have to wait and see. But still trying to find one more cornerback in this class, I think, is a top priority for Alabama. There's some guys who are still out there. Desmond Ricks, as I mentioned, he's going to be coming in for an official visit this weekend. Alabama's kind of behind right now with Ricks. Nick Saban did go in home with Ricks on Tuesday. This is a guy that they're really going to go all out for this weekend when he comes in for the official visit. Tyler Scott, 3-star cornerback out of Georgia, who'd really kind of, really picked things up over the course of the last few months as far as his recruitment interest. Arkansas State had his commitment briefly, but then once all these other offers started coming in, Alabama, USC, Texas, Auburn, Tennessee, he decided to back off of that decision, and those are kind of the top schools on his list, along with Louisville. Of course, with Louisville coaching change, I don't know if Louisville's still much of a contender there, but I think that with Tyler Scott, could easily end up coming down between Alabama and Auburn. Likes Auburn a lot, has been there, and expected to go back and meet with the new coaching staff. He'll visit he'll visit Texas and USC over the next 2 weekends. Still some other names out there, including Cormani McClain. There was a rumor that kind of circled around today that he might be visiting Alabama this weekend, and not ready to confirm that just yet. We talked to some people close to Cormani who said that's not official as far as his visit plans to Alabama, but it's something that we are keeping an eye on, especially this weekend. Travaris Robinson, Alabama's defensive backs coach, visited with Cormani on Monday. We know that Alabama has been pushing hard to get him in for an official visit. He's still very solid with his commitment to Miami. I think it'll be really tough, even if he does make a trip to Tuscaloosa this weekend, to flip his commitment. But you never know. You just never know until you get somebody on campus and get them to, see the bigger picture. And I think with Cormani, that's kind of been the main thing with Alabama, is just trying to get him back, because he hasn't been back to Tuscaloosa since June. So we're definitely watching things with him. Maybe Malik Muhammad ends up making it back to Tuscaloosa, Texas commitment, but as of right now, no plans. Damari Brown. We kind of think that Alabama has a very realistic shot with Damari. How realistic I don't know. I mean, Alabama's probably in that top 2 with him, but he is a Miami legacy. He lives down in South Florida. His father played on one of the Hurricanes national championship teams. There's going to be a lot of pressure on him to stay home, and we don't know if that's going to be a big factor in his decision. It could. And, there's a lot of people down in Miami that certainly feel like he is going to stay home. And you look at there on the On3 Sports recruiting prediction machine, the RPM, heavily favored to Miami right now. I think Alabama's probably above Clemson, and it may not be that drastic of a percentage. I think it's probably more, a little bit closer. I'd say a lot closer than it shows right there. But we'll see. I mean, cornerback, like I said, linebacker, defensive line. Alabama has 3 defensive line commitments. I think they have to get at least one more guy this year. Now, the beauty thing is you've got the transfer portal now. You can go after players. There's a lot of really good players that enter the portal, but you also want to get, players that you've targeted and recruited for a very long time, whether that's James Smith out of Carver. Reuben Bain out of South Florida is another guy that they've really liked for a long time. A report came out the other day that it looks like it's probably going to be an in-state battle with Bain, with Florida State and Miami. Miami been considered the heavy favorite for Bain, really, since the start of his recruitment, family connections down there. And, Miami's been pushing hard for a long time. So I think Alabama's probably on the outs for Bain, but they're going to keep trying. They really like him a lot. The biggest question on the defensive front, in my opinion, isn't necessarily who are they going to get out of these guys who are uncommitted. I think it's more so, will they be able to flip one of these in-state guys that they missed on back in the summer? Kelby Collins committed to Florida. Kelby hasn't really, said that he is going to come back to Tuscaloosa for an official visit just yet. He was at Alabama for the Iron Bowl. Freddie Roach took a visit to see Kelby on Monday, did an in-home visit. Nick Saban should be going in-home with Kelby next week. He's currently playing in the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star Classic, so he is in practice this week down in Mississippi. So we are going to wait until next week and see how the in-home visit goes with Kelby, to see if he potentially makes it another trip back to Alabama and see if they're going to have a shot to potentially flip him. But also Peter Woods. Peter is, in my opinion, the biggest miss in this recruiting class for Alabama, just because this is a priority position of need for Alabama. He is one of the absolute best players in the country. He grew up an Alabama fan. He's been to Tuscaloosa countless times since his freshman year, and he ends up committing to Clemson. Sometimes stuff like that happens, but Alabama, really is really missed on Peter Woods. They're continuing to try to flip him. I don't know if it's working at all. I don't know if he's even going to take a trip back or even let Nick Saban come in for an in-home visit. We know that Coach Saban wants to do an in-home visit with Peter Woods. We know they want to do everything they can to try to persuade him to flip from Clemson. But, every conversation we've had with Peter and, other reporters who have had with Peter, he seems very locked in with his commitment to Clemson, which is in my opinion, a very big loss for Alabama, and probably the one that will, potentially affect them the most in this class, especially at a big position of need. But it's not over until it's over. So we'll see if Alabama is able to potentially sway him just a little. If you can get your foot in the door, if you can get him to potentially come down for a visit. Clemson doesn't allow visits, so it'd have to be pretty quiet on that front. But if they're able to do that, or even if they're just able to go in for an in-home visit, I think that's kind of the key right there, is Nick Saban being able to go in, sit down with Peter and his family, discuss everything that Alabama has available for him, discuss the playing time situation and how he'll be used. I think that would be really important. But as of right now, no plans for Peter to. Nick Saban wants to go in home, but as of right now, I don't think Peter's is setting up any in-home visits outside of Clemson.
Hanging out with Andrew Bone on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Guys, like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. We talk recruiting. We're going to do it the next 2 Wednesdays, right? And then we've got national early signing period coming up on a Wednesday. So that's really exciting, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, hit the bell so you know when we're live. The big board is out. You can check it out yourself on Bamainsider.com. There's a new world of team coverage taking place right now. We want you to be a part of it. That includes Bones Big Board. And for $10 for an entire year, you can check it out. And maybe you just want to know about this recruiting class. You're not sure. Hey, $1 gets you 4 months. But Bones on this thing, Alabama has the #1 class. That's really important. Guys leaving, which means maybe there's some more space, more scholarships. So a lot can change. And he'll have all that updated there. All right, Bone, before we get out of here, how about players that Alabama has committed that you feel like are taking visits, they're still looking around?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to look at, 3 guys, and 2 of them are in Georgia. The top 2 recruits in Georgia, Caleb Downs and Justice Haynes. Now, we've had a chance to talk to both of those guys over the course of the last couple of weeks, and pretty much have reassured everyone that they're still solid with their commitments to Alabama. They are still talking to other schools, and other schools are still visiting them, including both Ohio State and Georgia. I think with Caleb Downs, Ohio State's a bigger threat. With Haynes, Georgia's a bigger threat. But in the end, I do think Alabama's able to hang on to both of them. They're expected to see Alabama in home, I believe, today, Caleb Downs and Justice Haynes. So, big visit for those guys. But, I think that Nick Saban is going to go in home with Caleb and Justice next week to kind of sure things up with both of those guys before the early signing period on December the 21st. So big visits coming up in home with those 2 guys. And then Tony Mitchell. Tony has enjoyed the recruiting process a lot as far as taking visits. He's taken a lot of visits out to Texas A&M. Has visited Auburn a few times. He's going to take an official at A&M next weekend. On December the 16th, which I'm sure will scare a lot of people. But from talking to Tony, from talking to people close to him, I think he's just enjoying these trips. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I think in the end, he sticks with Alabama. He's been recruiting other players to Alabama. So it'll be a big shock if he ends up flipping. Yes, you always have to kind of raise your eyebrows at all these visits to other schools when you're committed somewhere. But in the end, I will be surprised if Tony ends up flipping his decision.
Awesome. Well, Bone, we appreciate it. And again, this is it. I mean, we're coming down to the wire here, and the place that you can get the coverage that you want up to the minute is Bamainsider.com.
Absolutely. Joseph Hastings and I bring everyone every little bit of recruiting scoop every single day. We try to stay on top of it as much as we can, and a lot of great interviews. Joseph's done a lot of great interviews this week with different players, but we have just dropped the big board. It's my breakdown of every single remaining target, whether they're committed elsewhere, committed to Alabama, or they're uncommitted and Alabama's still going after them. We really break it down, share where things stand, and also give our current prediction as to where things are currently leaning in their recruitment. So it's a great article. I don't want to say it's a great article. It's a very in-depth article.
Call it great. Bone. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. So I encourage everyone to go check it out. It's on Bamainsider.com. It's $10 for an entire year subscription. So you can pay $10, read that, and stay on Bama Insider for the next year. And I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed with that. Or you can just pay $1 and get it for 4 months, and you'll be happy with it. Save a little money for Christmas, but I think $10 isn't going to really break too many bank accounts for an entire year subscription to Bama Insider. Guess what? Anytime you go to Bama Insider and subscribe, I always hear, glad I did, because it's the best money that people can spend right now.
Awesome, guys. Well, that does it. We appreciate everyone in the comments section that's been firing off throughout the show. Thank you for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. And Chris Daughtry, behind the scenes, for making everything go the way that he does, and our guy that puts all this together, Kyle Henderson. For Andrew Bone, I'm Mick Gillispie. Don't forget, right now, like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. That's a way of saying Roll Tide. Can Alabama finish with the #1 recruiting class? Well, we'll find out. We got 2 more weeks. For our entire crew, I'm Mick Gillispie. Thanks for watching, guys. Roll Tide. We'll talk to you next time.